I was thinking about this, Dave, and it's very fascinating. So many people want to have a Lamar Jackson conversation that I believe is unrealistic. I think the more realistic Lamar Jackson conversation is this. Would you rather give Lamar Jackson Deshaun Watson money? Because clearly that's what he wants, Deshaun Watson money. Otherwise, he probably or likely would have gotten a deal done before the season. So option A, give Lamar Jackson Deshaun Watson money. Option B, trade Lamar Jackson. Now, you at home might be saying, well, Acho, Lamar could play under the franchise tag. I would caution you that that is likely not realistic, because if you're Lamar Jackson, you wouldn't want to play under a tag, given the fact you've been hurt the last 2 years for 6 games each. And if you're the Ravens, you wouldn't want to tag Lamar Jackson because he's been hurt the last 2 years for 6 games each, and that tag is $45 million, of which the salary cap would incur that debt immediately. So really, as I look at it, 2 options, Dave Helman. Either he gets Deshaun Watson money or you trade him. With those 2 options at play, what should the Ravens do? And would it be crazy for the Ravens to trade Lamar Jackson?
There's a lot of nuance to this conversation, as there always is with quarterbacks and quarterback contracts. But if those are the options you're putting in front of me, I'd probably trade him. Honestly, like if the choices are $230+ million fully guaranteed for a guy that now you can say has shown a trend of being unavailable last 2 years, what, you say 6 games a year?
6 games a year.
12 games, that is a sizable chunk of the last 2 seasons. And obviously, this most recent injury, no shade toward Lamar at all for not playing with the PCL. We talked about it all season. I don't blame him, but Lamar Jackson's injury drastically affected the Ravens' playoff push and how viable they were for the postseason. If those are the choices, think about the deals that we've seen recently. Deshaun Watson, whose resume is nowhere near as good as Lamar's, netted the Texans 3 first-round picks and 2 fourths. I looked at this just for fun because you know how I love the NFL draft. I mean, and this is purely hypothetical, but like, what if I told you you could have Houston's 2nd overall pick and 12th overall pick this year, in addition to some future assets? Maybe you get a first-round pick to play around with later. The Texans have assets because of the Deshaun Watson trade. I'm just saying, if I were the Ravens and I was facing paying $250 million fully guaranteed, or having a boatload of picks in this year's draft as well as future drafts to start over with, and we already know they've got a fantastic defense in place, I think, you'd have a shot to draft a quarterback with one of those picks. It's awfully intriguing.
Awfully intriguing. George Taylor, where do you stand? Is it intriguing? Is it crazy for the Ravens to consider trading Lamar?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a nonsense sandwich. Would you rather be the Houston Texans right now, or you'd rather be the Cleveland Browns?
I think I'd rather be the Texans, to be honest with you.
Who's closer to winning a championship right now? The Cleveland Browns or the Houston Texans?
The Browns.
The answer is the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
If I was like, here's a nonsense sandwich, Dave, would you ask me, can I get it toasted, or would you say no thank you?
I'd say no thank you.
Yeah, because it's a nonsense sandwich. They should have paid Lamar Jackson earlier. They kept playing this game and pushing it down, and as we know, the longer you wait to pay your quarterback, the more expensive it gets. Then here come the Browns with this desperate, ridiculous contract that blows up the market. That's also the Ravens' fault. You're relying on other people, particularly the Cleveland Browns, who never do anything right. And what do? Crash the market. Now, I look at things like this. Are you building for the future, or are you trying to win championships? Are you trying to stay consistent, or are you trying to win championships? Because we see organizations just they gamble like I do at blackjack. I just put like one little chip down. I'll just won the one chip. If I win, that's great. I'm going to take that chip back, and I'll leave the one that I won right there. And I'm going to play for 4 hours because I'm never pushing anything. But I'm at the table. Y'all came and went, but I'm still here. But that's not fun. Nobody likes to gamble with me. That's a terrible night. That's not fun. You would leave the table. You'd be like, I'm playing with somebody else.
High limits, y'all.
That doesn't sound very exciting.
About it.
I'll be honest. I'm a high limit.
Right. You don't want to participate in any of that. So that's what some organizations do. They just play it safe. They just want to be consistent. And there's something to being consistently competitive. But are the Ravens contenders without Lamar Jackson? Are the Texans contenders right now without Deshaun Watson? No. Now, in a few years, they might be. But we're still giving them a lot of grace considering how they've done business for a very long time. So if you're asking me if you have a better chance of winning a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson than without, I believe the answer is yes. And if you have to pay him that money and then do a better job as an organization of drafting and making other moves, which, by the way, you're going to need to do anyway, because right now, Lamar Jackson might have the weakest skill position group,
no doubt,
in the league, particularly for a quarterback of his caliber.
Hey, here's what's interesting, though. I don't think we're giving the Ravens grace. I think they've earned it. I was thinking back historically, the last 20 years of the teams that have won multiple Super Bowls, Only the Ravens have won multiple Super Bowls with quarterbacks that will not sniff the Hall of Fame. You can think about the last 20 years. The Bucs have won multiple Super Bowls. Well, Brady was there. The Patriots have won multiple Super Bowls. Well, Brady was there. The Chiefs have won multiple Super Bowls. Well, Mahomes was there. The Rams, if you count the last 25 years, Kurt Warner was there, Matthew Stafford fringe. The Steelers, the Giants, Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning will likely get in. But the Ravens, to their credit, have won multiple Super Bowls in the last 20 years with Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco. Two quarterbacks that will not even sniff the Hall of Fame. So when I think about it, Joy, I'm like, I have to give the Ravens respect for knowing that whether they have Lamar or they do not have Lamar, they have found a way, along with only 4 other NFL franchises, to figure out how to win multiple Super Bowls based on building whether you have a great quarterback, you don't have a great quarterback. Because regardless of how much we say it on TV, it's hard to win them things, and it's hard to get there clearly. And if the Ravens are one of 5 other franchises or 4 other franchises that have done it, then I think they might be doing something right. But, Will, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, because what I was going to get to is they're one of the few teams where, I would say most teams, where it's truly about the logo, right? It's about the Ravens. It's not about Lamar. It's not about anything else. And that's what Ozzie Newsome did a great job with. And you mentioned playing with those type of quarterbacks is because they built that roster to be able to compete like that. And so I would not be surprised with any scenario. I wouldn't be shocked if he played under the tag. I wouldn't be shocked if they end up paying him, and I wouldn't be shocked if they traded him. Like, there's so many variables that can go around. If he does stay, okay, yes, they got rid of Greg Roman. Now they have a coordinator who can possibly, bring some kind of sophisticated passing game for him. But it's going to be huge to get some weapons, because he truly needs someone to throw to. Like, that is, if you keep him, that is like number one. You must do that. So, I mean, I can see all these situations, but I really believe that for this year, I think he does stay. They don't trade him. He probably does play under the tag, and they probably use this as an experience to see, like, let's give him everything that he can have this year and put him in a position to succeed.
Let me ask you, Will, what would you do? You played ball for a long time. In total, I'm sure in excess of 20, 25 plus years. When I think about the Ravens, whether we like it or not, this is a reality. They're not great at drafting offense. They're really good at drafting defense. Like, whether you like it or not, this is just what it comes down to. When you think about the receivers they've drafted over the course of time, they've been good players. They haven't been Hall of Fame caliber players. You think about the defensive players they've drafted and acquired over their history, they've been really good to Hall of Fame, to all pros, to first ballots, all of the things. So no matter how much the Ravens want to try to help Lamar Jackson, for whatever reason, maybe it's the culture, maybe it's the coaching, maybe it's what they prioritize, they're not good at picking offense. So how do you think that should impact their decision, and what should they do?
I'm sure they know that. Just like early in the year, we talked about the Eagles having issues stopping the run, so they went and got 2 veteran, D linemen to help. We talked last year about how Cincinnati could not protect Joe Burrow, so they went and got more linemen. Like they know that. So I feel like them knowing, like, hey, let's find some people outside to give him a chance. I think they're going to address that.
I can't subscribe to the building a great roster and not having a franchise quarterback thing in today's NFL. I just can't do it. How did that work out for the Niners this year?
It got them pretty close.
It's pretty close to championship?
That's close enough. It's close enough where you're like, hey, we just got to figure out who we need. Just like the Jets are trying to figure out who we need.
What do we feel like the Niners need?
A quarterback.
A quarterback.
For sure, yeah.
Look at the other teams that were at the end of the line this year. Hurts, All-Pro. Mahomes, MVP. Burrow, MVP finalist. Let's look at last year's Super Bowl. Stafford, pretty great quarterback.
Right.
Part of the reason why they won. Up against who? Joe Burrow. What was the year before that? The idea that you can just build a great roster and not have a franchise quarterback sounds good when it was, what year did they win with Joe Flacco?
But only one of those quarterbacks already has the contract. Like, those rosters were able to be built because of having these young quarterbacks.
I don't disagree with that, but I do disagree with the idea that you can win without one. Because the example
I don't think you can.
I don't think
you
can.
Right,
but so that's what I'm saysaying. Like, are the Ravens trying to win a championship, or are they just trying to be really good?
I guess it's not so much winning without one, though, Joy, as much as maybe you don't need Lamar Jackson. Because we're not that far removed from the Seahawks winning with Russell Wilson, who was good,
yeah,
but he wasn't that
What year
good.
Was that?
I'm saying
that was almost 10 years ago.
Even when the Bucs beat the Chiefs, Brady didn't play well. Like, it's like we've seen teams win without stellar quarterback play.
Not throughout the season, not to get to the Super Bowl. Even if you didn't have a stellar play in the Super Bowl, you got to the Super Bowl. Like, you're not even getting to the Super Bowl. You're not even winning multiple
step
playoff
one for them was they moved on from Greg Roman because I think they felt very, very limited on what they can do offensively. And everyone kind of caught on like, okay, yes, they had this sophisticated run game that people are trying to figure out. Well, they figured it out. And also they had a lot of guys that weren't healthy. They had all their running backs were injured.
Bad luck.
And then Lamar got injured, and then there was no one else to throw to besides Mark Andrews.
I think they needed a scapegoat, a conversation for another time. But to move on from Greg Roman to Todd Monken, an offensive coordinator at Georgia who was formerly at Tampa. And by the way, Tampa was not good when he was there.
Also, who was not promised Lamar was going to be there. Like, who said that?
To me, a lot of interesting things are going on in Baltimore.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.